The Braves just made a huge trade to get their left fielder, and they are not done yet. It's BravesKast. Let's talk about it. So first of all, Cole is out playing the drums for Forest Isn't Dead, his band. If you don't know it, go check it out. Second of all, I have lost my voice, and I'm just starting to get it back. I hadn't been able to speak since Wednesday, and it was really kind of Alex Anthopoulos to let my voice heal before he dropped the Jarred Kelenic trade bomb. If you don't know already, on Sunday evening around 10 p.m., Ken Rosenthal and Jeff Passan both dropped the news that the Braves were acquiring outfielder Jarred Kelenic, pitcher Marco Gonzalez, and first baseman Evan White from the Seattle Mariners in exchange for Cole Phillips and Jackson Kowar. If the two names that the Braves acquired don't sound familiar to you, that's because one of them hasn't pitched professional baseball yet, despite being in the organization for 2 seasons, and the other one was a pitcher who was just acquired from the Kansas City Royals in the Kyle Wright deal. If you don't know that Kyle Wright was traded, you should go back and watch our last video on Aaron Bummer. It kind of came out of nowhere. No one really knew that Jarred Kelenic was someone that the Mariners would consider trading, and the Braves really didn't have to give up much to get the 3 players. Kelenic is probably a name that you've heard of, if not because of his play for the Seattle Mariners, then for his inclusion in the Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz blockbuster a few years ago between the Mariners and the Mets. Kelenic at the time was a huge prospect. He was picked 6 overall, and at 19 he had already gone up to AA, I believe. Kelenic has played 3 MLB seasons. He has not been great in all but maybe a month and a half. So there might be a bit of the prospect hype that hasn't died behind Kelenic, but overall he hasn't been incredible in his major league career. Last year looked like a bit of a breakout season after being worth negative wins above replacement in 2021 and 2022. He got off to a very hot April. I believe he was already at 2 wins above replacement by the end of the first month. He might have been the first month and a half. After that, though, he cooled considerably. His OPS over the last 84 games, I believe, was under 7. And he actually lost all of his power. In June, early June against the Mariners, he hit a homer off Shohei Ohtani, and that was his last homer of the year. Kelenic did miss time from July until mid-September because he broke his foot kicking a cooler. But, I mean, he had 182 consecutive plate appearances. He still is homerless in a running streak of 182 consecutive plate appearances. It will be interesting to see how a guy like Kelenic, he's only 24 years old. He is a top prospect. He's got that pedigree. How he'll work with the Braves system. The Braves have probably the most severe home run or bust philosophy. A guy like Kelenic could come over to the Braves and really buy in to the make damage on pitches in the zone, or it could really turn him the other way. He already has a very high strikeout rate. During the worst parts of his season, so after that first month and a half, his strikeout rate was 33%. A guy like Kelenic who goes into the all or nothing approach, you could have an increase in K rate. You could have a guy who could be like Joey Gallo without the power. Alex Anthopoulos said that for now they're done with the outfield. They expect Kelenic and Vaughn Grissom at this moment. I still think Grissom will be traded to play in left field. And that pretty much rounds out the Braves position core. They've got catcher set for first base, second base, third base, shortstop, left field, center field, and right field, and DH. There is a world in which the Braves trade Marcell Ozuna to clear some cap space. I guess it's not cap space, but to avoid the salary tax, the luxury tax. There's not really an upgrade above at short right now, unless the Braves do something absolutely wild. and acquire a shortstop out of nowhere. Orlando Arcia is pretty entrenched in that role. But with Kelenic on board, you have a guy who overall on the season was a 110 WRC plus type player. He could be a 115, 120 WRC player if he continues with his good work in April of last year. Or he could be on the other end where he is truly the player he was in 2021 or 2022. And we're talking about a below average hitter with average defense. I think with the Braves, it affords Kelenic a bit of escape, if you would say. He's not needed to be one of the top performing players like he would have been on the Mariners. I know the Mariners have J-Rod. They have a reformed J.P. Crawford. They had Eugenio Suarez. They've also traded Suarez in this salary cutting move. But on the Braves, there are so many great players, from the MVP to the home run leader to a guy who might be getting into the underrated territory in Austin Riley. They have Michael Harris, who has been a fantastic hitter in his 2 big league seasons. Kelenic doesn't need to be the guy. And if he's able to kind of fit in that role where he doesn't have that pressure of needing to be the top prospect who turns into the star and fits into the role player who helps lead the Braves to the playoffs, it might suit him better. Cole and I will talk more when he gets back, and we're gonna have a bit of a winter meetings breakdown. We're hoping for some more big moves, but for the moment, I really like the Kelenic trade. I think there's still a lot of potential for a young guy, and I don't have grand expectations, but there is a world in which, he comes to the Braves, he works with the Sightster, he works with the hitting coach core, including Chipper Jones, and he unlocks something that turns him into the star that the Mariners expected they were getting back when they traded Edwin Diaz and Robinson Cano to the Mets. I wouldn't, if I were you, expect that to happen, but I mean, he was a top prospect for a reason. He's shown in flashes that he could be a star, and I think in the right environment that could happen. I wanted to talk briefly about the other 2 players the Braves got in the trade, Marco Gonzalez and Evan White. When the trade was first announced, Marco Gonzalez, he is a left-handed starting pitcher, and Evan White is a first baseman. It was assumed that Marco Gonzalez would be held on to, that the Braves would use him in spring training. Possibly he would make the team as the 5th starter. That's not going to happen. A report, I forget who it was. I feel like it was John Heyman, but don't quote me on that, said that the Braves are planning on trading him. Gonzalez is owed a fair amount of money. I did not get the breakdown. Let me look it up. He's owed, for the next season, he is owed $12.25 million. He has a team option for 2025. He was really bad last year. His ERA was well above 5. His FIP says he might have been getting a little unlucky, but reports say that he was dealing with a lot of injuries. His fastball was a lot flatter than it used to be. He's had points where he has been good, not great, but a solid average lefty out of the rotation. Apparently the Braves don't expect to hold on to him. I don't really know what the Braves could get, and especially if they're using him as a way to get Kelenic to the Braves, they're going to have to eat some money if they're trading him, likely, especially because he essentially has 1 year left. I don't see a buyout on his contract. Even if he did, it wouldn't be too substantial. Evan White is an interesting guy. He won a Gold Glove, even though he has less than 100 career games. He won a Gold Glove in the shortened 2022 season or 2020 season. He's been very bad in the majors, and obviously the Braves have an outstanding first baseman in Matt Olson. But he's owed a lot of money. Before he got called up, he signed an extension that guaranteed him about $22 million. He has only earned about 5.7 of the $1 million so far. This year he is, I believe, making 5 or 6 million, and the year after he's making 7 or 8 million. And then there are a bunch of team options that are obviously going to get turned down in later seasons unless somehow he fixes things with another team. His defense, I remember when he was first up with the Mariners, had rave reviews on Fangraphs because of his ability to play farther off the bag against righties and to be able to make plays at first against righties despite playing so far off the bag. But yeah, offensively, he's not been great. He has also dealt with injuries last year. I believe he only played 10 games in the minors. He has not played in the majors since 2021. He is going to be nearly impossible to trade. I assume that the Braves will hold on to him, though. I think he has one more option. He might even have two. He's good for AAA stashing. If something happened to Matt Olson, the Braves could go to him, and they could have a reliable defensive player. I just wouldn't expect him to ever play for the Braves at the major league level. It's going to be interesting to talk about this with Cole. I think he is also a big fan of this. But yeah, let's talk about the players the Braves gave up. Cole Phillips was a second-round draft pick for the Braves in 2022 out of high school. He had a torn UCL, which meant that he had to have Tommy John surgery. He still has not pitched in professional baseball, so he never took the mound in any level of the Braves' minor league systems. He has the potential to make the Braves really regret this trade. Apparently, he was a first-round prospective pick before his injury. And he's still young. He's a 20-year-old. But injuries and the fact that he hasn't pitched, I don't feel like it is that high of a risk for the Braves. And then, of course, Kowar was acquired in the Kyle Wright deal. I was not a big fan of the Kyle Wright deal, mostly because Kowar's success in the majors had been non-existent. Any metric that you looked at besides his fastball velocity was not good. He had a high ERA. He had a high FIP. He was getting crushed. He had a high walk rate. He wasn't really striking out enough batters to make his high walk rate work. But obviously, the Braves saw something in him enough that they were willing to trade Kyle Wright instead of holding on to Wright. And the Mariners see something in Kowar to take him in what is essentially a salary dump for the Mariners. It will be interesting. I think this trade will really hinge on Kelenic's ability to improve as a hitter. He's still not arbitration eligible, so he's making the league minimum this year. He'll make a fraction of what he would be worth on the open market in 2025. And if he hasn't figured things out by then, he would be a non-tender candidate. If he has, he'd still be a pretty good deal. Cole Phillips, of course, if he turns into an absolute star, the Braves regret this if Kelenic breaks out or doesn't break out. Conversely, if Kelenic breaks out and, Phillips and Kowar do nothing for the Mariners, and it doesn't look like the Mariners are going to use this money to go after, Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani, which they totally should, then, the Mariners would be the ones regretting the trade. I'm going to go now and rest my voice a little bit, but if you enjoyed this breakdown, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. like the video, share with a few Braves friends. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers before the start of the 2024 season. And of course, stick around because Cole and I will have some thoughts on the winter meetings. Thanks for watching. Bye.